It's time for HawgSports Live from HawgSports.com, a division of 24/7 Sports, presented by Crane Automotive. The Crane Team's got 'em. Visit them online at craneteam.com. And now with the latest breaking updates on HawgSports, here's Trey Biddy.
What's up, Razorback fans? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. Well, it's been over 30 hours since the Ryan Silverfield news hit the, broke. And we're going to talk a little bit about the reaction that we've had, the initial reaction. We'll talk a little bit about perception, a little reality, and we're going to have Danny West on because there was a lot of recruiting news on. If you notice, Danny hasn't been with us on a while because he's been resting up for all the stuff that's coming. All that and more on today's episode. Oh, also my conversation with Ryan Silverfield. All that and more on today's episode of Hawg Sports Live. The Crane Automotive team has 16 locations across our state and is home to the Crane commitment. You'll find Ford, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Hyundai, Kia, Volkswagen, and access to thousands of pre-owned vehicles. Vehicles for every lifestyle and every budget. Even if you're not in the market for a vehicle, the Crane Team Service Centers offer the latest in vehicle diagnostic technology and certified technicians to take care of your vehicle and get you back on the road. Check them out at craneteam.com. Hawg Sports Live is driven by the Crane Automotive team.
You've done it. Now you're the Crane Cash champ. You just won big with the Crane team. Go ahead, soak it up. How could you not feel like a winner? You dominated with our low price guarantee, and you got way more for your trade. Plus, with statewide delivery on thousands of vehicles from 16 locations, and the fact that we'll beat any other dealer's price, we make our Kansans feel like champions every day. That's winning. That's the Crane Team. Visit craneteam.com.
Also want to mention I'm working to get this extended. I think I have, but I haven't gotten confirmation final on it. But we have our Cyber Weekend, Cyber Monday sale. It's 75% off at Hawg Sports. That's $30 for the entire year. Breaks down to $250 a month. So a heck of a deal. It's supposed to end tonight at 11. Today's Monday. Is today Monday? Yeah, today's Monday, and it's supposed to end tonight at 11, but we're trying to get that extended. But just in case, go ahead and sign up at Hawg Sports because there's a lot of stuff to come. Obviously, we saw all the recruiting stuff going on today. As I mentioned, we're going to have Danny West on to talk about some of the things went on. I had a conversation with Ryan Silverfield earlier today, and I posted some of that stuff on Hawg Sports. Now, this wasn't an interview per se. I asked him for some interview questions. I'll play a little clip here in a moment. But it was mostly just a conversation, me getting to know him getting to know me. It wasn't like something I would say was off the record, but it was, for most of it, aside from just like literally like 3 interview questions, it was something that I would like turn the recorder off for. You know what I mean? Like not off the record, but not something I'm like quoting you on. Let's just have a conversation. And he knew a little bit. Kyle Parkinson had filled him in a little bit about who I am. So he called me around, I don't know, I guess about 1 o'clock today, and we had a conversation. And I don't want to rehash like stuff you hear on the radio, all that stuff's great. Obviously, it's great to have those interviews. But just kind of wanted to talk to him about some other things. And I'll say this, like I know that, first of all, before we get into that, I want to talk about perception and reality a little bit. The outlash from Razorback fans yesterday and everybody, frustration, confusion. I mean, you guys saw my show yesterday. I didn't know what to think because not what I was expecting to happen. But I think for Razorback fans, you've got a 3-month coaching search, and it ends up being the hire that the odds maker told you was the most likely guy to be hired at Arkansas 3 months ago. And that's who you end up with. And I think that in and of itself caused a lot of the, angst and rebellion, I guess, against Razorback fans, mostly pointed towards Hunter Yurachek. I don't think that, and I think some obviously towards Ryan Silverfield just because, he's the guy that's named. But I also think that a lot of it was with Yurachek and the added sense of, you had Florida losing out on the Lane Kiffin sweepstakes, and then they turned their attention to Auburn's top target and John Sumrall. and they get John Sumrall. And then Auburn is forced to turn from their top target in Sumrall to Alex Golesh, who at the time appeared Arkansas's top target. And then that forces Arkansas to turn their attention from Golesh to Silverfield. And there's the sense with Arkansas fans that there's those 4 teams looking to hire coaches, and you're 4th. And that's not untrue. That's not untrue. When you look at the Arkansas job compared to those others that I mentioned, you're talking about teams that have won fairly recent national championships. Arkansas, we're talking the 60s here. We're talking about places like, somebody mentioned Auburn, it sucks to get beat out by Auburn. But guys like Auburn, Arkansas has to make its own way, and it can, but it has to have resources and backing. But Auburn is in a hotbed of talent. Like, you look at the towns around Auburn, Atlanta, Macon, Columbus, Jacksonville's not far, Birmingham. There are a lot of really good-sized towns. So you look at Arkansas, like, what's in that same radius? Springfield, Tulsa? Like, it's not a lot, and that's part of it. And now I've always said it can be mitigated, and we're going to talk hopefully and find out more about some of the financial situations at Arkansas with Hunter Yurachek on Thursday. Now, I also found that it makes a lot of sense that this press conference is Thursday, obviously with Hunter Yurachek and the College Football Playoff Committee stuff, but also, we look at what this guy's been doing in recruiting and meeting with players, reaching out to people like me. He's definitely hit the ground running here. So I think those are the things with some of the angst. The reality of this situation to me is, yes, it's great to get, a big splash hire. I think we all wanted to see splash hire, told you so national media. You don't know who we are, that kind of attitude. And I'm there with you. The reality is, when you look at guys like Alex Golesh, you look at Eric Morris, even Sumrall, who to me was kind of the top of the list of that group of 5 guys. The reality is, Silverfield probably has about as much a chance to win at Arkansas on paper as those guys. That's the reality of it. Now, was it the order that you wanted it to be? I don't know. Obviously not. But that to me is the reality of all this stuff. I thought I had this brought up, but I wrote this down as like spin, because everybody's like, how's the media going to spin this? Like, okay, here's a spin article. We'll title it Spin, have some fun with it. But I forgot to bring it up. I was just kind of like just writing down some stuff, just having some fun with it, whatever. I feel like we need a little bit of levity right now. So here's some of your spin. Do with this what you want. And again, we're going to talk recruiting and stuff, and I'm going to play this a little bit of a clip from our conversation, just kind of more of the talking, more of the interview type stuff. Again, that was only like 3 questions. We really just talked about who I am and what I do, and what his goals are, and had he seen the fan reaction and what his thoughts were on that, and just that kind of stuff, really. But he's 29-9 the last 3 seasons, second most wins in the AAC during that time. 4-0 in bowl games when coaching the entire season. He also lost the bowl game against Penn State in the Cotton Bowl. That was a 53-39 loss. That's when he was named interim coach. Beaten 5 Power 4 opponents, something Golesh has done twice, Sumrall has done twice, and Morris has never done. Beaten 2 AP Top 25 teams. Beaten 2, which Golesh has done twice, Sumrall's never done, and Morris has never done. He's won at least 10 games twice as a head coach, which is something Sumrall has done 3 times, Morris has done once, and Golesh has never done. He's been a head coach for 6 seasons on the FBS level. Sumrall's been a head coach for 4. Morris and Golesh have been head coaches for 3. He's 50-25 as a head coach on the FBS level at 66.7%. Sumrall's 42-11, 79.2. Morris is 22-15, that's 59.5, and Golesh is 23-15, that's 60.5%. It is notable though, like, again, this is just kind of like I could do the same thing for Golesh if I wanted to, like, make it just like, well, this is why Golesh is the best. So, we're just laying it out like this, just to kind of play into that narrative that the media is going to spin stuff for you. But you cannot say that without also making the important note that Eric Morris took over a North Texas team that was really struggling, and Golis took over a South Florida team that was really struggling. I mean, like, if I'm making this whole list, I'm like, but look at where South Florida used to be. Look where North Texas used to be. Summerall obviously took over a really good situation at Tulane and not so good a situation when he was at Troy. Worked at quality control and as an assistant position coach in the NFL for 7 seasons. None of the other coaches have done that. None of the other coaches have any NFL experience. Of course, this is where I would point out that John Summerall has SEC coaching experience. Being in Memphis, he's very familiar with the high school coaches and recruiting in the state of Arkansas. I actually wrote that part like before all the stuff came today with all the commitments from inside the state, which was good to see. And as I said, good people don't always make good football coaches, but my impression from talking with him was that, this is a pretty good guy. This is a guy who wants to do well. And I will say this from, once we get past like the initial, frustration and lashing out, the wounded animal syndrome and stuff, it is not possible for him to have success without this whole state. It's just not like, and I know that's like maybe not something that everybody wants to hear right now, but he'll never have success without the whole state. And that's been a big problem with this state in recent years. When I was growing up and when I was, before I was doing this and really early on when I was doing this and, even through Petrino era, we had some hiccups. We had some breakups here and there, this Northwest Arkansas versus Central Arkansas and nut huggers versus, Malzahn and all that kind of stuff, Springdale 5, all that stuff. We had that. But there was a time where we just felt really connected, I think, with the fans. I think the fans felt connected with the media people, knowing who, was covering the Hogs. And a lot of the guys were longtime media people and knowing the team and the players. Like, you really knew that. And maybe that's 2025 and that's just where we are. It's impossible to get to know players. But I used to think, like, even with the kickoff luncheon that we used to have to kick off the season, and you'd have a table of fans that bought tickets and stuff, and they'd sit next to 2 players and get to know a couple guys. And you know what? That's my guy this year. He may only be a long snapper, but that's the guy I'm following this year. And I think in part of it's just like the way media and the university, and again, that's just how 2025 is in a lot of way. But man, we really have to be all in on this thing together. And I get the frustration. Trust me. I get the concern and the angst that people have against Juracek and the way everything is played out and some of the decisions and stuff and the losing just weighs on you, just knocks you, just beats you down over and over and over again. I'm right there with you people. All right. But it's ever going to change. I'm reminded of something that Josh Pate said in a recent show that he had after he visited Texas Tech, and how he felt like everybody was just marching in the same direction. Like it was like a high school football town times 1,000 because of the size of college football. And those aren't my memories of Lubbock when I've been there. My memories of Lubbock was like, okay, but apparently that's shifted. That's changed. I don't know. I hate to be like the happy-go, like, hey, everybody fall in line and let's get this thing going. I don't want to be that guy, but I do know that to be true. Like, support matters. And I look at, like, South Carolina, like, just selling out every game. And they sucked ass this year, and they just still showing up. And, sure, they haven't been beaten down like we have. I mean, we've just been beaten down, just like it's difficult. It's like a chicken or the egg thing. Like, well, they'll show me something, but a lot of change was needed, and change is happening. I think more change is coming with the University of Arkansas, with different personnel and stuff up there. I think all that stuff coming. I'm not saying like with Juracek. I'm just saying like other people up there. Anyway, all right. Let's play the clip. This is just a quick clip, and I'll say this too. you have to say this. And I had this conversation with other people before, but if you're on your phone and you have it in speaker and you're talking into it like this is how you sound talking. Your S's are going to go away and you're going to sound like this. So just keep that in mind with this conversation. Okay. You're going to sound like this if you're on speakerphone. I'm just saying. Okay. Where is that? Oh, there it is. Okay. Here we go. How did everything play out with this? How did it come to pass?
Well, listen, this is a job I've always wanted. This is like all these things. It was a wild coaching search for so many, right? A lot of the same people were involved in a lot of the same dialogue. Mm-hmm. I turned down head coaching opportunities already in this cycle, but this was one that I couldn't pass up and was thrilled, and this is the one I wanted. I think that it resonates well with the fans, the way we're going to go about everything, right? The passion, the energy. The fans here are so incredible. And to me, that was the exciting of everything, right? 76,000 fans, right? This is the state's team. And I've recruited this area. I've been around, and, it's all Razorback football. And that, to me, is as exciting as anything. And I couldn't think of any place I'd rather get going. And they deserve a winner. We deserve to get this thing back the right way. And I believe it or not, the resources are in place. It's just going to take some prodding and pulling and coaching and discipline and all the things that it's going to need, but we're going to get it going in the right direction sooner or later, I promise. The only thing I can do is control and put together the best roster and show this fan base the way we do things. And I wish I could go win a game today. I can't do that, but you know what I can do? I can go get the best damn recruits in this area and show these guys that we're not messing around. We're not taking a backseat to anybody. We're going to win a bunch of football games and give the fans exactly what they deserve. And so they don't need to be wounded. So they don't need to sit there and say, man, we're second tier. There's no more of that stuff. There's no loser mentality around here. Everybody around here is going to put it on their bootstraps, and we're going to go get this thing.
I like that last thing that he said. Walker Brothers brings you the finest men's clothing from around the world, carefully selected to last, fit right, and help you look your best. From game day essentials to distinguished luxury wear, from a meticulously fitted suit to the perfectly faded pair of jeans, every piece in their collection is hand-selected for enduring quality and iconic style. Experience that undeniable confidence that comes with perfecting your personal style. Visit them at 577 Millsap Road, Suite number 6 in Fayetteville, or their brand new location, 3503 South 55th Street, Suite 101 in Rogers. All right, time to go to Danny West. Danny joins us on the Ozarks Go hotline. If you're looking for fast, reliable internet service, then there's no better choice than Ozarks Go. OzarksGo.net/hog, or you can reach out to him at 479-684-4900. Again, fast, reliable internet service that I've had for almost 4 years now, and it has never failed me. Northwest Arkansas, parts of Oklahoma. Danny, appreciate you joining us, even though you had to do it over the phone. Glad to have you on because there's a lot going on with recruiting, and we haven't had you on for like a month.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Danny. Good to be on with you.
So Danny West has been with us for a long time, those of you who don't know him, and he's finally got some good stuff to talk about. There's been just a wave of decommitments and stuff. We kind of just let him rest because of all the stuff coming down with the transfer portal. Of course, signing day starts on the 3rd, and well, I'll just let you kind of take it away, Danny. Let's talk about the first thing that fell here with Danny Bill and kind of go from there.
Great name, great place to start. Danny Bill, one of my favorite players in the class and has been for a while, not just because he's number one in the state, Trey. We've got him as a 94. Now, I know you know this, but to people that may not keep up with recruiting that much, that 94 is a hefty grade. That puts him at 119th overall in the country. That might be a bit much for me, Biddy, just personally, but he's still, I mean, you can look at him and tell he's got all the potential, all the tools, and, it was an important one. And we talked about this for just kind of as a general overview to recap the day. Biddy, we talked about this in July, man, back in the summer months when we were talking about, hey, if this thing goes south this fall and a change is made, that November 30th through that first week of December, those first few days on the job for a new coach, he's probably going to come in and attack the remaining in-state, talent inside the state, because it's ripe for the picking. It makes a lot of sense. It's easy. It's low-hanging fruit, but it also makes a lot of sense from the standpoint of it creates a boost immediately. You've got everybody talking today. 24 hours ago, everybody's hating the hire, and here we are today. You've got me on. Everybody's excited about these in-state guys. It's crazy to me how fast it can work. And we've already talked about Danny Beal here, but we'll get into some of these other new commitments. Ja'Cory Smith and TJ Hodges joining today, both out of Bryant. Two really good players there. Ja'Cory, obviously 6 foot, 190 linebacker, was committed to Oklahoma up until about a week or two ago, and came off the commitment page for the Sooners, reopened it. You could kind of feel this one coming, Biddy. After he decommitted and didn't immediately switch to somebody else, you felt pretty good that whomever took over at Arkansas was probably going to be in a position to get in there and swipe him. And then TJ Hodges, man, you remember he transferred over from Marked Tree to Bryant for his senior year, had a really good senior year, as they all tend to at Bryant. And, he's a big-time 4-star recruit. There's a lot of different things you can do to him, with him, I should say. We call him an athlete. He's a running back, but you could play him as a utility guy, receiver in the slot. A lot of different things you can do there, but still they're not done, in my opinion, Trey. There's a couple more guys, maybe even a few left in the state that could continue this thing. You think about Kane Archer. Let's just start there. Everybody wants to know about Kane, the quarterback out of Greenwood, Gatorade Player of the Year. Could be a 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year. We'll see. 6'1", 213. Recently flipped from UCF to Utah on the 23rd, about a week or 8 days ago. And, he's probably the most polarizing prospect we've seen come through the state in quite a while. He's one of the most popular. Everybody sees him as a winner. He's just that dude. And it would make a lot of sense, whether you've got opinions about his height or, Arkansas in-state recruits, competition, whatever it may be. It would create quite a bit of a buzz, in my opinion. So from that standpoint, I think it may be worth it to kick the tires. Maybe, going down the final stretch here, you think about Anthony Kennedy Jr., another 4-star defensive lineman at Little Rock Central. Man, I like where they're headed with him too. I think that one could work in Arkansas's favor between now and Wednesday, which is signing day, the first day of the early signing period. So we're up against it here. And, I failed to mention Matthew Nelson there, another one at Bryant. He's still committed to OU, 6'5", 220, somewhere in that range. Biddy, I might like him as much as I like any of them in our current rankings. And I think we've got him at 7th, 8th right now.
He is, he's number 6 right now.
6, okay.
Yeah,
I might like him as much as I like anybody in the class this year. So, man, if you could go and get a few more of these down the final stretch, look, I don't think it impacts you a whole lot for 2026. You've still got to go out, and I'm much more interested in January than December, as most of us are. But I think it's a fine first start. It's it's needed. I've spent all summer telling people in-state recruiting ain't what you think. The players have not been panning out, and I still stand on that. I wouldn't go crazy with it. I wouldn't go overboard. But I think when you offer the 3 to 5 that you think can play, you got to get them. And that's what you got to get back to. And by God, that's what he's done today.
Yeah. Matthew Nelson, just a shade under 4-star status, obviously still committed to Oklahoma, and we'll obviously following that closely. Kane Archer, as you mentioned, flipped his commitment to Utah. He's the number 17 ranked prospect in Arkansas, according to 24/7 Sports, number 12 on the composite, number 79 quarterback nationally. And Anthony Kennedy is the number 4 prospect in Arkansas, number 37 defensive lineman, a 4-star recruit. And then Terry Hodges, who did commit today, is a 4-star recruit, number 18 running back, number 3 overall prospect in Arkansas. Ja'Cory Smith is a high 4-star. He's number 500, or excuse me, a high 3-star, number 571 overall prospect in the country, number 11 in Arkansas. And then, as you mentioned, Danny Beal, number 119 nationally, number 15 defensive lineman, number 1 in Arkansas. So,
Biddy, let me throw one more at you. And I don't,
okay.
it gets tough when you start naming all these in-state guys that I've spent the last 2 years dealing with and talking to. I don't want to leave anybody out, but also, you want to make it realistic too. These are the candidates that I would see as, these are the prospects that I would see as candidates. And I left one out there, young man up at Rogers, the linebacker, Braxton Lindsey, who we know has been committed. Now, I can report this. Up until last night, he hadn't heard yet from Arkansas. Now, that could have changed today, but I bring it up to tell you this. There's a lot of smoke right now around that BYU guy, the head coach out there. I don't want to mispronounce his name because
Kalani Sitake.
There you go. I'll let you do it because I think the world of him, but it looks like Penn State smoke is real.
Mm-hmm.
So, Braxton's committed to BYU, and we'll just see where it goes, right? So I just wanted to throw that one more at you.
Yeah, 6'2", 230, the number 8 overall prospect in the state of Arkansas, number 515 nationally on the composite. It's interesting when you look at this commit list now, though, Danny. I mean, before we were looking at it, and it was Prevost out of Bentonville who transferred in from Texarkana, right? From Liberty.
Yep, that's right.
So he transferred in, so he's not like even technically an Arkansan in a lot of ways. He committed to Arkansas, and then Tay Lockett, who came in from like California or something, right?
San Diego, that's
and
right.
He's at Conway, and those are the only 2 players in the top 10 in your state. 2 guys that transferred in. He came in from San Antonio. Is that what you said?
San Diego.
San Diego. Okay. Yeah, I thought it was California. So, the only 2 players committed from the state of Arkansas. And now you're looking at the number 1 player committed, the number 3 player committed, the number 5 player committed. We got a close eye on number 4, and then Evan Goodwin, I guess, would be kind of the outlier, and then of course Matthew Nelson at number 6. But Evan Goodwin, who's committed to SMU, the offensive lineman out of Bauxite.
Yeah, and look, I didn't mean to leave him out there, but I did reach out to Evan yesterday, just hitting up all the in-state recruits to kind of, gauge their interest on Arkansas's hire. It's notable to everybody in the state. Mm-hmm. So Evan did say all the right things. He was very complimentary of Ryan Silverfield as a coach, and said he was glad Arkansas had him, but kind of left it at that. So, you can take from that whatever you will. I kind of took from it that maybe he hadn't heard yet from him, but maybe was open to. I don't want to speak for Evan. He could be 100% locked in and not interested at all, but that's just kind of how I took it.
All right, Danny. Anything else you want to add today? What are your thoughts on Silverfield?
Oh, well, you know what, buddy? It was I was kind of the same as everybody yesterday, and I've probably followed a similar path today, just new day. But I've told people for months, man, leading up to this, I think we could all kind of guess that this might be the year for Pitt, and it was. And I've told people leading up to it, I'm just ready for something new. Now, that's not to be confused with, I think this guy's the next Nick Saban, this and that. It's not, but I am excited, for my job again and to do something different for a change. I agree. It wears on me, man. You know me, I let it wear on me as much as anybody. And the last few forever has been really tough. So I'm ready for something new and something positive. That's where I'm at with it.
I was telling people the other day, because people were flipping out on the message board and stuff, and I get it. Like, I mean, it feels like you lost a game when there was no game being played, and I felt the same way. And I'm feeling like that. I'm in my feelings too. And then everybody's like, well, Trey, what about this? And said this and all this stuff, and I'm just like, it reminded me a lot of 6 years ago. I was at a Christmas party that my wife and I had planned with our friend group. We had a large number of people, and we'd planned it for a couple weeks, and we're at this party, and we're early into it. We hadn't even eaten, and I look at my phone, and I mean, it's just like on fire with Lane Kiffin going to Ole Miss. And up to that point, we've been following the Lane Kiffin to Arkansas stuff very hard, very closely. And which we know now that Lane Kiffin did have a verbal agreement with Arkansas, and then Ole Miss fires Matt Luke and jumps into the sweepstakes. And next thing you know, there's a back and forth, or tried to get a back and forth started, which Arkansas wasn't willing to play. And I think also a big reason that he chose Ole Miss because they had Matt Corral there. That played a role too. but I look at my phone and it's my fault.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, babe, we got to go. I'm sorry, we got to go. So we
I've done
leave,
something terrible.
and she's not happy with me. And actually, I didn't even know that it was my fault until I got home, but she's not happy with me because we got to go. And I get home and I get on the board and it's just getting hammered.
Yeah, man.
I'm getting hammered over it. But you know what?
It was your fault, though.
It's a job I signed up for.
Let's
Danny.
be clear.
This is the job that I signed up for. And
that's a fact.
And I've said plenty of times, man, that, I like getting frustrated. I like being excited. I like having all the emotions. I do not want to go through life just completely sterile, just like I don't want to hurt anymore. Like I like getting invested and then having them go 2-10 and just being pissed about it. Like I don't mind that. I saw the Dallas Cowboys thing the other day, and Jerry Jones is like, why don't you separate yourself from all that? And he's like, because I need the pain. I'm just like,
fact, man.
I get it.
Buddy, you can't move far away from it.
Yeah. No, you can't.
I mean, it's always going to be there no matter what you do. So all you can do is embrace it and hope it gets better. And I think it's about to. I don't know how much better, but it just feels like when enough people are loud about something, it's probably going to end up being the opposite, from the examples we've seen.
Well, it's not a high bar. And one of the things, I was talking with him about too, it's not a high bar, Danny. But the things I was talking about him too, like he had, and I assume he's talking about Oklahoma State, and I assume he's talking about UCLA.
That's what
because I know that those two schools were in pursuit of him. And he said he turned down other job opportunities, other job offers, I believe is what he said exactly. But he always had his eye on the Arkansas job. And man, I know people are like, oh, he wanted the job. That's what Pittman said, and yeah, that's true. But you also have to have that.
Yeah.
I mean, that can't be absent from your want of something, and to see potential in Arkansas. And more than ever, like if they can get what they've been saying is the financial stuff is in order. And Danny, that's something that throughout the reporting, and there's been some stuff that have been confusing and, like who's the real candidate and all this stuff. But, what's been pretty steadfast is our reporting on, some of the goals for this. Yeah. For the program, and, what Hunter Yurachek was saying to boosters, that was really good information, I thought, in terms of like where they want to get the finances and stuff, and just talking with boosters myself and what, and I'll never forget this conversation I had with this guy that I barely know. I've seen him a couple times out on the golf course, and he's just like, what, damn it, I'm 60 something years old. I can't remember what he said, 60 something. If I had guessed 67 or so, and he's like, I'm tired. I'm just tired of losing. I told him I'm doubling my donation this year. It's like, I'm sick of it. And I get that impression from other people all the time, but that conversation, because it was just kind of like him passing by. He goes, he's like, you're Trey Biddy, right? I was like, I listen to your podcast. I really enjoy it. And I was like, thanks, man. He goes, I'm tired of this. SHIT.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it reminds you of, and you know him as well as anybody, but you remember Pat Gazzola used to say all the time, man, I've got to see him win before I leave this earth. And
I know.
It haunts you now to think about that, but man, for a lot of people, that's real. I mean, and it ought to be, because that means it still means something to them.
Pat Gazzola at Catfish Hole was a good dude, and
I wouldn't be here without him talking to you.
Extremely passionate. Yeah, you're right. Extremely passionate. He had one of the more vicious hog calls. I think it was just like kind of like
it's aggressive.
It was almost like a Michael Jackson Thriller kind of like throw him up.
You got to mean it.
Yeah, he meant it. But I always thought about that. When he passed away, it was right before Bielema's last year. And I was thinking, man, obviously he didn't want him to pass away, but I was just thinking, kind of glad he didn't see that. And then what happened with Chad Morris years, I would have hated that for him more than I think just about anybody, buried in a Razorback coffin. That's how Pat Gazzola was.
Yeah, boy. We'll see what we see.
All right, buddy.
All right. See you.
All right. I'll let you later, everybody. Sorry about that. That's Danny West Follow him at Danny West 24/7 on X and read all of his content at HawgSports. And there's going to be a lot of it, guys. So buckle up because the transfer portal cometh. I mean, it is nigh. Why am I speaking in Old English? I don't know. But I would like to tell you about our friends over at Blakeman's Fine Jewelry, the official jeweler of the Arkansas Razorbacks. This holiday season, shop for a meaningful gift that will last at Blakeman's Fine Jewelry, the official jeweler of the Arkansas Razorbacks. From exceptional diamonds and homeware to designer jewelry and timepieces from brands like David Yurman, Rolex, Tudor, Baccarat, and more. Enjoy a festive shopping experience both in-store at 3202 Pinnacle Hills Parkway in Rogers and from anywhere at BlakemansFineJewelry.com. Make your holidays unforgettable with Blakeman's. A lot of good stuff on there. I was actually looking the other day. Things broken up into different categories. They got free delivery. Not free. I don't know if it's free delivery, but they have delivery, so you can shop from anywhere. So, all right, let's hop over to some questions here. 328. I've done... I did Justin Akery's show today. I did Outkick today. You can listen to that segment. It's on YouTube. I got Drive Time Sports later today. We did a show yesterday. So in addition to everything else that we're putting out at HawgSports with Kevin Bohannon, Connor Goodson, Danny West, Tyler Glasscock. All right. Questions. Tony Andrews 81 says, he hit the ground running on securing and flipping in-state recruits. Are we expecting more of this, and when can we expect it? I would say expect something in the next 24 hours. Pretty good source on that. RKG Hogs say, also, if you can speculate on the new and significant financial from where the new and significant financial investment came from, how much was it? And how many donors do you think Silverfield's corner? I'd be really interested. Well, what I hear, he's like hitting up donors, and like he's not just like talking to me and talking to, he's done a couple of radio interviews this morning, or talking to recruits, or talking to his current players or staff, or trying to get all that stuff lined up. But he's also reaching out to influential boosters, and so that's important. Again, like guys, like I get where we all were yesterday. And I understand the frustration and feeling like you got put in your place a little bit. Like, this is who you are, Arkansas. This is who we told you you're capable of hiring, and this is who you hired. So deal with it. I get that, but I also know that there's we want to win. And if we're ever going to win, it has to be unified, and it really does. And I don't mean to say that as a kumbaya type of moment or something like that. It's not my intention at all. And I know people are going to take it like that and like, oh, Trey's just, but yeah, I am. I want to win. I'm tired. I've been to 20 road games where Arkansas has lost. Think about that. Now, there have been games that they've won on the road, but they happen to be games that I chose not to go to. But I went to every single Razorback game this year, except for, ironically, Memphis because of the press box construction. But I went to every game this year at home and away. I've been to every home game for 23 seasons, I guess, something like that. But I'm sick of it. I am sick of a place and a thing that I really cherish, and have always loved growing up and in college and professionally, loved doing the job that I do. And you almost get the sense of it doesn't even matter anymore because, the history has just been destroyed, and our history has been destroyed. This was our thing. Everybody watching this show right now, this was our thing, the Razorbacks, and they've pooped on it. They made it stupid. They've made it a joke. They've made it a joke to the point that I see Razorback fans almost just reveling in how bad we suck. Like, if we're going to suck, we're going to be the best at sucking. It's like, you're a cigarette smoker and you're like, I'm going to be the best cigarette smoker there ever was. I'm going to wake up in the morning and smoke a cigarette with my coffee. A lot of people like their cigarette with beer, but I like to start off the morning with a cigarette. We're going to be the best at a bad habit, And that's just where we are, almost reveling in it, almost just expecting it, waiting for it, anticipating it. And in the sense of like, this guy's hired, and it's not even about Ryan Silverfield. It's about the mentality that we have, that we're backed into a corner and our arm's broken and we've got these massive teeth and stuff and we're an animal. And anything that walks by, anything that comes across, attack, defend yourself. You can't hurt me anymore. I've been hurt. That's the mentality that we're living with right now. I'm living with it, and so are you. And, sometimes you just get in such a vicious cycle, you just have to say, okay, you know what? We got to reset my brain here, and we got to do what we can do to win. And I get the frustration. I'm there. I don't like the way Arkansas is perceived by people nationally. I don't like being told that Arkansas is this, and this is what you can expect, and this is what you should be happy with. It infuriates me. I think of us sometimes as just like a dysfunctional family in a lot of ways. It's just like, we're just like at each other's throat and, talking all kinds of crap about each other and hating on each other and getting in fights on message boards and on social media and stuff. And, but it has always felt like we do that to each other. But if somebody else were to criticize one of our people, we'd go attack them. We can do what we want to ourselves, but we're going to put on a front against you. I may just like talk trash about my sister constantly to her face, but if you do it, we're coming to blows. And I feel like maybe that's lost a little bit. Like, where is that attitude? Where is that us against the world? A lot of talk about getting a defensive coordinator. That's something we got to dive into a little bit more. And I haven't really had the time to do that yet. I will. That's next up on my agenda, is to look at possible coaching hires, staff hires. We know Ben Souders is not going to be retained as strength coach, so somebody new in there. The Memphis strength coach, obviously, who's got an NFL background, has been with them, I think, the last 6 years, so he'll be coming in. Strength coaches are always interesting, It's a different personality with every one of them. I'll never forget Jason Veltkamp, who came in with Petrino, and Veltkamp, Bob Holt, late great Bob Holt, he made this comment. He's like, is Veltkamp always that kind of mood? Is he always that kind of guy? I mean, you look at the pictures and the media guide and everybody's smiling and looks like they're happy, and then his family's happy, and he looks like he just ate the worst burrito of his life. Because Veltkamp's just like, I think about like a lot of the guys that have come through here as strength coaches. So I don't know anything about this guy yet. I just know that he's going to be the strength coach, and I'd like to see some video of him. What kind of guy is he? Sometimes they're a different type of breed of person. Yeah, I always like Ben Souders too, but I am reminded of the time that Arkansas has to get a stop against Memphis, and they just drag the whole defense and get a first down and end the game. RKG Hogs. Also, if you can speculate who's the new and significant. Oh yeah, I just read that. Yeah. Oh, so Thursday, I think we'll get some more insight. I don't know if they're going to say like this guy is invested in us, like come out and say it, but Thursday, I think we should be able to at least ask some questions about that and get some better answers on where Arkansas is from a finances standpoint, supporting this football program, not just through within the program, but with NIL, which is really just two separate categories. Obviously, revenue sharing is within the program, but I mean, I can't imagine. Like, I know some of these guys that have committed to Arkansas, and I don't think that they were asking for nothing, And that's another thing you talk about vicious cycles that we've had with Arkansas. With Pittman, it got to a point where he could not invest. First of all, people wouldn't support them financially. It got to a point where he could not invest in the future of the program through high school recruiting at all, because if he didn't bring in players that were ready to play, then they were inevitably going to lose and he was going to get fired, and it didn't matter. So he was caught in that cycle. Of course, it happened anyway. because long term you need a mix. You got to have the high school recruits develop through that, and you've got to have the transfer portal. And for Arkansas, I think you need a little bit more transfer portal, just because of now that doesn't mean you go out and just get seniors every year. You know, you look at last year, bringing in Kavian Broussard, bringing in Shaq McCroy. You know, those are redshirt freshman offensive linemen. You know, bringing in guys that you can still develop through the program that aren't on their last year. You know, you kind of think of that like hired mercenary type of thing. So, can he get Durkin to be his DC? I don't know that. That would be a big one, but I think it would be nice to get a really nice defensive coordinator. I'll say this too, like I thought Memphis's defense, and you know, when they played Arkansas, I would trade as much as I love like Cam Ball, like personally and stuff. And I don't mean this against Cam Ball or Quincy Rose, because like if you told me I could pick and choose, you know, I would pick and choose. But if you're telling me this defensive unit versus Arkansas's defensive unit, I would be like, I'll take Memphis. I'll take Memphis's defense over Arkansas's. And I think everybody would. And I don't mean that as a slight on any individual player. I'm just talking about the unit. Trying to think of the things that I can answer because I don't have Luca. I don't have an answer for that just yet. Josh Weaver, Trey, permission to get excited. These recruits sure seem to be good medicine for the fed up Razorback. I think it was important for the way things were going with the reaction from fans and media and everybody. I think it was important to get some good news. Arkansas needed some good news today, and getting Beal, you know, getting all three of those guys, I think was big. And I think, you know, more to come. And he said like he's going to sign one of the best recruiting classes Arkansas has ever had. That sounds like a lot to say, especially when you consider that it's December 1st and signing day is December 3rd. But it sounds like more is to come. But they've got a long way to go to be one of the best recruiting classes Arkansas has ever had, at least on paper. Now, he may mean, you know, when we look back on this class in years, but at least on paper, you've got to be somewhere in the top 25. I mean, you just do. Fire that. Ooh, I haven't seen you post before, but that's a name. What are your thoughts on the offensive and defensive coordinator positions? Any early? So this is most of the questions. We're gonna have a lot more, I think, on this. Working on, you know, people he's had on staff, people who are potential targets. We'll get more detail on that coming. ZM Razorback says, in your conversation with Coach Ryan Silverfield, what were you able to ask about the funds for the football program and NIL? So generally, basically what I was, you know, kind of led to think was like, that's something that they want to talk about more on Thursday. So, you know, this wasn't me. This was just a conversation. It wasn't me like pressing anything like that. So I think we're going to have to wait till Thursday before we get more on that. More on the offensive, defensive targets. Another one on that. Is there a surprise recruit out there for this high school class? That probably would have been a good question for Danny. I don't know that. Hey, I want to tell you about BetSaracen real quick. BetSaracen is Arkansas's #1 sports betting app. We do the wager wagon. We'll get back on the wager wagon, I guess maybe on Thursday. Yeah, on Thursday. It's a little more difficult with the wager wagon. I got to come up with a good strategy for that because of how basketball betting lines are released. So we'll come up with a good strategy for that since we do the show on Mondays and Thursdays. We will now. I'd bump the show later because I knew I had that conversation obviously with Silverfield, so I bumped the show. But we will be going back to a noon Monday, noon Thursday schedule. However, this Thursday will be a little bit different because we got the press conference. I'm not sure when is that press conference. I need to look at that. Let's get this right. Press conference is 1 o'clock. So we won't have the show at 1. Maybe we'll do a walk and talk. Maybe we'll do a walk and talk for that one. Yeah. Maybe we'll just do a post-press conference walk and talk. owe you guys a walk and talk. We didn't do one immediately after the coaching search. After it was named yesterday, we just did an in-studio show. So maybe we'll do a walk and talk on Thursday, and then yeah. So anyway, BetSaracen is Arkansas's #1 sports betting app. If you enter the promo code BIDDY, capital B-I-D-D-Y, capital B, lowercase I-D-D-Y, 125 on your first $25 bet, you can get $125 back in bonuses to spend. So pretty sweet deal from our friends over at BetSaracen.
Arkansas's favorite sports stars explain what they like most about BetSaracen.
BetSaracen is not only Arkansas's top sports betting app, it's also the 13th largest in the nation.
Darren McFadden, and there's a serious plow horse. No wonder Jerry liked him.
Check out this BetSaracen promo.
Place $5 or more parlays, and if yours rank among the top winning odds, score your share of $50,000.
It's also the 13th biggest in the nation. No wonder Jerry liked him. BetSaracen commercials. Okay, so at what point did you know? At what point did you know you were going to be the new coach at Arkansas? I'm not sure what you mean there, Scotty. So Sparks County says, I think that's Sparks County, Sparks CO. Odds, he keeps saying the existing staff, if you had to guess what was the best chance of surviving the turnover. Again, I want to dive into more staff stuff after the show and kind of get some stuff ready for tomorrow on that. But there's been some like whispers that maybe Scott Fountain. I've heard that. I don't know that, but I've heard that. I've said before, I've made like the case for Eric Mateos, but I also know that Silverfield's coached offensive line. He's got an offensive line coach. So a lot of that just, it could be like, I don't know what Memphis's plan is. Like, are they going to promote from within or what? A lot of times when you've got a program that's been having success, you promote from within. That's how Silverfield was named coach at Memphis. So set my early expectations for Ryan Silverfield year one and beyond. Expectations, what I think is going to happen or what I think should happen. I don't judge a coach as harshly in the first year. However, it's easier to judge them now than it was. And I think that's a big reason, as I've said many times, why Sam Pittman wasn't fired at Arkansas sooner, because of the calendar. But Sam Pittman probably should have been let go if the calendar was the way it is now, he would have been fired in 2023. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I even felt like the next year he didn't live up to what he needed to live up to. But again, the calendar, playing Arkansas State. You just really get rated now. And what we're seeing now, like, there's nobody that's saying they're in the transfer portal right now. Last year it would have been all over the place because the transfer portal is about to open if it were last year. So I think that's something good. Now, it's important to note this too. Arkansas is grandfathered in to the old rule because they fired Sam Pittman before October 8th. And at that time, the transfer portal did open for 30 days for players. So important to note that they were grandfathered into that. So when a new coach is hired, you get 15 days. After 5 days of a new coach being hired, the transfer portal opens for 15 days. However, what is not written, which you don't see in that tiny print, that is only if a coach is hired after the transfer portal window closes. So all these schools out there that fired their coach after October 8th, when they hire a new coach, the transfer portal doesn't open for them. They still have to wait for the regular transfer portal open. What is that, January 2nd? They still have to wait for that. In the instance that a coaching change happens after that, then 5 days after a new coach is hired, the transfer portal reopens for that school. Read the fine print. Expectations for Ryan Silverfield year one. I would like to see them get, obviously, to a bowl game. I would love to see that. I'm not going to hate on them too hard. I mean, it all depends on, when you're living in it, it's different, as I always say. But 5 wins, I would hate to see less than that. As far as a measure for how the future should be, you know what I mean? Past that, I mean, I'm always about, you guys know what my standards are. I think that Arkansas, now we're going to a 9-game schedule, and that's going to impact things, obviously. That may make it harder to get to 5 or 6 next year. But and it changes up the formula that I've always had, which is win half of your SEC games at least. After year 1, win half of your SEC games. Win your big non-conference game every other year. Win your bowl game every other year, and then you get 7-9 win type of seasons if you do that. Obviously, the formula changes because you can't win half your games in conference anymore. So maybe you win 5 some years, maybe you win 4 some years. Maybe that's the new way to look at it. And maybe there's a year where you win 5 in conference, and you win your other 2, and you win your bowl game, and you win your or let's not even say you win your bowl game, but you win that other big non-conference game. Maybe you're looking at a chance at the college football playoff. Now, it does feel like this year that idea that 3 games, 3 losses, oh wait, that's not what I want. It does look like that's not going to work this year. I mean, we're talking about most every team that is even in the conversation right now. I mean, Texas was kind of in the conversation, but most every team is a 1 or 0, 1 or 2 loss team this year. But if you get to a place where you're at 16 teams, then maybe you're talking about Texas as a possibility. And we'll see what happens with Texas and Vanderbilt. I mean, Vanderbilt's got I think I saw a 10% chance of getting in. I hate that. I really want Vanderbilt to get in, but I don't think it's going to happen. And maybe it shouldn't happen, Maybe it shouldn't happen. But it's disappointing. They went 10-2 this year. And so what we've always kind of said is hey, you go 9-3 in the SEC, you got a chance. But that's not how it played out at all this year. Not even close. I lost my question spot. There we go. Where would you like to see the Razorbacks rank in talent acquisition every year? I'd like to see us pull in a top 15 high school class and well, yeah. Well, that's never happened. They've never had a top 15 class. I would say I don't know if it's ever going to be super realistic for Arkansas to pull in consistent top 20 recruiting classes, because I do think in this new model, the path for success for Arkansas is going to be lean more heavily on that transfer portal. And the simple reason being is the access to talent. That's more than if Arkansas had that radius and there was just enough players in that circle to go to Arkansas and be really good players, that would be one thing, but that's not the case. Recruit the in-state guys, get some guys here and there. But I just feel like not most of, but I'm not even saying half, but a good chunk of your talent needs to come from the transfer portal every year. It would be nice if you had better retention of players, and maybe that's where we can get with the model of just having more resources financially, because you have, and I've made this point before, but Oklahoma just wanted Isaiah Satania, and Arkansas couldn't pay to keep him, or was unwilling to pay to keep him, so they just took him. Texas just wanted Brad Spence, so we're going to go ahead and take Brad Spence from you, buddy. Take it easy, Arkansas. Ole Miss just we're going to go ahead and grab Luke Haas and Patrick Kudus, and go ahead and give me Jalen Braxton too. I'll take him also. I'll take him off your hands. Hell, even UCLA was just we're going to take Nico Davier. Nico just wanted too much money from what I'm told. So, but and Brad Spence was offered so much money at Texas that he couldn't turn it down. And the amount of money that Isaiah Satania was being offered by Oklahoma versus what Arkansas was willing to pay was dramatically different. We have got to get past a point where the best players on your roster are just being plucked. That's some stuff that, like, UTSA. I made no bones. I've always been a big Jeff Traylor fan. I think he's a really good coach, and he is competing at a place that just does not have anywhere near the resources as some of the guys that we're talking about from the Group of Five, from the AAC. And the fact that he competes is, and not just competes, but has won as many games as like just almost anybody over the last 5 years. So anyway, I've gone off on a kind of a tangent. But talent acquisition, I think a top 25 recruiting class is not too much to ask in this model, because it's also, going to be based on the number of players you get. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't sign a large class, and you're just not going to have a very highly ranked class. But I would like to see him in the top 25, and I'd like to see him in the top, 15 or so in the transfer portal. I don't think that's too much to ask. So maybe I'm not quite where you are. I get your, the idea, but like I've always said this too, you have got to win with good players before you can win with great players. Got to win with good before you can win with great. The teams that are going to rank highly in those categories are going to have big financial backing. So it'll be telling, I think. Razorbacker says, any insight into his coaching staff? Yeah. I promise, guys, we're going to get to that. How much emphasis should he put on SEC experience when hiring a staff? I'm interested to see like who is retained on the staff. Again, I mentioned there was some talk about Scott Fountain. I know Fountain's kind of polarizing. He does a tremendous job of bringing in talent, but it seems like all the time it's like, what are you doing on special teams? Does it seem inefficient to have a head coach that doesn't call plays on either side of the ball? Seems like the turnover of schemes on both sides would be counterproductive. I think the more college football has changed, that it's maybe better not to have your head coach calling plays and let him manage the game and things like that. And obviously have input on everything, but during the game, but I think it's better to actually have somebody else doing that. Bellboy 501 says, how do we feel about strength and conditioning coach? I feel like we haven't been strong for a while. There were times under like Bielema's group that I was a lot of times I'm just like, man, this just is not a strong group. And there were times also with Pittman where, maybe some things surprise you. Bugaga says, what's the disconnect with the previous staff recruiting in-state prospect? Was it NIL? I think I spoke about some of it, but yeah, some of it's NIL, just where they were allowed to put their funds, not allowed, but like where they had to put their funds. And that was with veteran players. I don't want to rehash myself again. Will the staff put emphasis on high school recruiting and development instead of relying on portal players? I think it's a balance. Now that we have supposedly more NIL, will we be able to retain depth pieces once developed? I think I just talked about that, so great minds there. Max Dory says, in recruiting, is being 45 an advantage over being 65? Frank Boyles used to always say you want the best. This is from Rick Schaefer. Used to always tell me this. You want the best 10 years of a coach's life. I have always viewed a coach's best years as, somewhere north of 40, 42 to 52, something like that. 42 to 55, maybe even. Somewhere in that range. You look at some recent hires. I think Nutt was 40 or 41. Bielema was probably 45, 46. I think Petrino was 47, and Silverfield's 45. So Silverfield is also the youngest, he's the first coach that is younger than I am currently, in my current stage of life. He's the first coach that Arkansas has ever had that is younger than me. I can remember the first time they hired an assistant coach who was younger than me. I believe it was Scott. Was that his name? Went to South Carolina. He left and went to South Carolina. John Scott. Is that his name? See his face. But I think he was the first guy. I was like, man, that dude's younger than I am. It's kind of like a weird realization. Like when you're following the team as a youth, as a kid, all these players and you look up to them and stuff. And then next thing you know, they're kids to you. It's just how that flips. But I've thought about that. Is this next guy going to be younger than me? And he is, just by a few years. Okay. Why do you think these 4 stars are flipping to Arkansas? Well, I think, first of all, I think it helps having fresh blood. A lot of times, especially, in the old recruiting calendar, a lot of times a coach's, first class would be his best class. And then when they changed the calendar around, that was no longer the case, and it'd be their second class. Chad Morris's second class was his best. Brett Bielema's best class was his first class. That first class was like, wow. I mean, think about some of the guys getting Denver Kirkland and Dan Skipper and Alex Collins. And I mean, that was fun. That was a fun little ride, but that was also with the old recruiting calendar and the old late February National Signing Day. T Business, are you surprised about the immediate recruit response? I think, these guys probably got decent offers, and maybe that's also a reflection of more money. I just look, we have 7,000 people on here. That's a lot. That's good. Appreciate everybody. Hey, I really do appreciate everybody supporting this. I know, I take some heat for some stuff too, and that's fine. Like, that's just part of it. I don't mind it. Like, I mind it. Like, I do. Like, it pisses me off. But as I said before, I kind of who I am. I don't mind getting a little pissed off sometimes. And I also enjoy, the good stuff and the celebration and, when everything's good. I like that too, but it's not going to be as good if it isn't a little sour first and stuff. So, I've seen people, thank me for stuff that we've done and appreciate it. And I've seen people criticize, and I see it all. Like, people say, don't read the comments, Trey. Don't look at that. It's like, I like the comments. I like seeing this. I like firing back, I don't care. So anyway, I appreciate all of you guys. I appreciate the people that hate me. I appreciate the people that love me. I appreciate the people that are indifferent, and I appreciate our subscribers at HawgSports, of course. Again, it's 75% off right now. There's a lot of stuff to come down the pipe, a lot of recruiting stuff, transfer portal, assistant coach hires, other things coming down the pipe. Of course, spring football is going to be really interesting, I think. So a lot of interesting stuff coming, and good time to sign up at HawgSports. Is a heck of a deal, 75% off. I don't ask, we don't do like Patreon or super chats or any of that kind of stuff. We have the website, and that's what I always try to promote and make sure that people know that's where we put our best stuff. And I really appreciate everybody for signing up and making us one of the 10 largest sites in the entire country. And appreciate all the free people too. People who watch this show, people who leave us reviews, give us a thumbs up, the likes, comments, all that kind of stuff certainly helps us build our brand. And that's not lost on us also, that there are people out there that support us in that way too. And I appreciate that, and appreciate our sponsors, of course. I mean, we couldn't do what we do without, the sponsors on this show, and also shout out to Sutherland's for supporting the walk and talk. I mean, it's not cheap to travel for games. And one of the main reasons that I travel for games, because everything is so much easier to do from home now. I mean, you could argue that it's easier to cover a game from home, because if you think about, like, people follow me during the game on X and stuff, and I'm like, oh, what is that? And they're like, Trey, that was obviously pass interference. I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm at the game. I'm watching it live, so I don't know. And I'll be asking, like, what was that call? What happened there? What was that personal foul? And people can tell me because they're watching at home. Plus, you take out the travel and all the extra content that you can do because you're not traveling. It makes it more than, and everything's streamed now. Like, you used to not only be able to get a press conference and video if you were there, at the press conference and post game, and now it's all streamed and stuff. So it's very easy. And in fact, I think people would be surprised at how many media people just stay home and watch games and cover it that way. But the reason that I travel to games is to do the walk and talk. That's really it, because people like to see me react to the game from the stadium, from the venue. And that's why I do it. And Sutherland's, I really appreciate it. It cost me probably on average just to go to a road game. And I'm going to go to a nice place to eat. I'm going to experience the town. I'm going to do that. But with flight, travel, like car and all that kind of stuff, a rental car or an Uber or whatever, hotel, I'm looking at $1,500 probably for every single time that I take a road trip. And doing something that could easily be covered at home. But I do it to do the walk and talk. That's why I do it. So because people like it, and I think that that's something that I've been able to build some recognition with also, and it's good for me and it's good for people because people seem to love it. So it's kind of a wash financially, to be honest with you. Like, I'm not making any money on the walk and talk. Like, I think that's kind of funny to say, like, in terms of like directly, like, sure, it's build my brand, it's helped build the site and everything, but like, I don't, with the money that like I make from Sutherland's and the money that it costs to travel to these games. I say that because they're not all road games, but it's pretty close, you know. So, but I do it because I think people I feel obligated to do it. To be honest, like, I feel obligated. So I appreciate everybody for this football season, following us along, as torturous as it was at times, as frustrating as it was. Thanks for getting all your content at HawgSports, and yeah, we appreciate you. We'll be back with you guys on Thursday. I'll do another walk and talk after the announcement for Ryan Silverfield, the formal announcement. Delayed too much, but I guess understandable. All right, everybody. Thanks to Danny West for hopping on. Thanks to all you guys as well. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we'll catch you next time.